welcome to NEK VT Rocks. And my guest today is Elia Spates Marquis. Yeah. And we're going to talk about housing. You guys run Memphremagog rentals.
Correct.
And you are the biggest game in town, basically.
Yeah, probably.
How many properties do you have?
We have a few hundred units between. We've been in, I think we're in 11 towns, so everywhere from St. Johnsbury, Lyndonville, Westburg, to Orleans, Barton, Glover,
Wow.
North Troy. We were in Island Pond, and we no longer own out there. We've sold all of our Island Pond properties. Our heaviest is obviously Newport,
Right.
and then we're in Derby, Derby Line, Beebe.
I mean, since I've lived in Newport, I've obviously heard a lot about you guys.
Sure.
And a lot of assumptions about who you are and
Fair.
what you do.
Fair.
So I'm always surprised when I hear, A, one of the old assumptions, but B, that you also build high-end housing and buy that to sell, not to rent.
Right.
That you really cover the whole of the housing spectrum.
Yep.
So you have affordable housing, low-income housing, subsidized housing, that is, and everything beyond that.
Yep. Everything
Which is
in between.
Pretty impressive. The idea for having either you or Doug or somebody from your group here was because I heard somebody say on the street that they didn't have to pay rent because of COVID. I thought, I don't think that's an accurate statement.
It's as far from the truth as you can get.
Right.
And it's, unfortunately, all of the information that gets put out, people can hear what they want to hear.
Sure.
But there is confusion. There is not the same level of understanding across the board. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate the people that call and say, I don't have to pay rent. No, that's not at all what was said.
Right.
What was said is if that rent can be deferred, which means to be put off, if you are in a situation in which you have lost your income. So if you are on a fixed income receiving Social Security or disability, there should never be a time that is changing. You should not be deferring your rent at all because nothing has changed with your income. And the long and short of it is, for anybody, once the moratorium is over, the courts will open back up and it will go right back to the world of evictions. We pride ourselves on working through people's difficult situations. We work really hard at payment plans and being understanding. And it doesn't mean that rent goes away, but it does mean that I will work out a payment plan with you to catch back up.
Right.
I will work through every agency, grant program, and otherwise program out there to try to get you help. It's what I think we are good at in our office, is not just being black and white. We don't ever draw a line in the sand and say, you didn't pay rent, it's all over. That's just not the way we behave. I think some people think that we're foolish, that we don't do that. But at the same time, we have really great tenants from all walks of life.
Right.
Just because you are in affordable or low income housing does not mean that you are not an absolute gem.
Absolutely.
You still can absolutely be a gem. But it also doesn't mean that because you have a great job and you should be paying your rent, and it does not mean that you are a gem either. So, we handle all kinds of situations.
Yeah. What do people do currently when they're in a horrible situation? They've been working, they've lost their job because of whatever's happening right now.
Sure.
And there are just suddenly so many expenses, including that their kids are out of school.
Right. So right now, the best thing to do if you are struggling with your rent because of loss of income, and frankly, I shouldn't say just because of loss of income, because they're not being nitpicky about why the rent isn't being paid. When I say they, I mean Vermont State Housing, the housing stabilization program that is out there. You should pick up the phone to your landlord. We always say that communication is the number one most important thing.
Right.
If you don't want to lose your housing, if you want to have a good working relationship, even if it's a difficult conversation, pick up the phone and talk to me about
So start
why.
with the landlord.
Start with the landlord. Start with picking up the phone. So, John can't pay his rent. He lost his job. He doesn't know what to do. For a spell there, we were okay because there was additional income coming in every week, and that was really helpful. And honestly, lots of people were really intelligent about it, and they got ahead knowing that this wasn't going to last forever. They prepaid on utility bills. They were smart about it. But John's in that situation. He still can't pay his rent. He still is not, he doesn't have all of his hours. He's furloughed. It could be whatever the situation is. So pick up the phone. Hi, Elia. I haven't been able to pay my rent for September and October. I owe $1,200 right now. I don't know what to do. And so myself or one of the other specialists in the office, Maggie, would say, what we're going to do is walk you through the housing stabilization program. And that is a program that nobody knows when the program will end, because when it runs out of money, it runs out of money. But right now what's happening is they get in touch with us and we go through a very easy, basic form. Back and front, one form. We will walk through it with them. They have a portion they have to fill out. The landlord has a portion that they need to fill out, and then it is submitted to the housing stabilization program. And in most incidences, the rent gets paid.
So can somebody come in and get that form?
Nobody can come into our office right now. I can tell you that. But we will. If they're a tenant of ours, then we just fill out the form and we'll tape it to the front of our door for them to pick up, fill out, and drop it right in our drop box. But we can do all of it through email as well.
Oh, perfect.
So we'll scan it over to someone, they'll print it, sign it, scan it back to us. There's a variety of different ways to really get it done. It could be put in the mail, certainly, if it needed to be. But there is also currently, they're not limiting how many times you can apply for it. So we have had a couple of people that truly have been out of work now, and the additional income that was coming in from the state has stopped. So they really have fallen behind a couple of months' rent. And every month after the rent is due, we can sit down and decide what can they do out of the unemployment that they might be receiving, and sort of what's the remainder. So maybe it's that they were able to do $400 of a $600 rent, but they have $200 that they still can't cover. It's fine. We'll walk you through it, and no shame in that. This is not a situation that was created.
Nobody asked for this.
Nobody asked for this. And I think people in general associate shame when they're asking for additional money, and it's really important to remember that this is not a situation that was created. They also should remember that because they were working, they paid taxes, and all of this housing stabilization money did not come from the heavens. It came from tax money. So they paid into this system.
And I'm seeing people now who had just got back to work. The kids were back in school. Now the kids are out of school, or some of the schools are shutting again. And the parent is frantic. I mean, how do you stay home and be the school person, which you have to do because you can't leave your kids unattended. Apparently there's a law against
that. It's
frowned upon. So strange. But you can't go to work, and you can't then get paid, and you won't get unemployment. It's that catch-22. So the housing stabilization plan really is a lifesaver.
It's definitely a lifesaver. And it's been a lifesaver for us too. The last thing that we want is to see all of these people not pay rent, because it's a definite trickle-down effect. When everybody's not paying the rent, then everybody's not paying the mortgage, and you know, it will go right through from top to bottom or bottom to top. It'll run its course all the way through.
I once lived in a duplex. I owned the duplex, and I bought it specifically so that there would be a rental piece and me as mortgage assistance. If this had happened then, I would have been in a lot of trouble. And I'm sure that's true for many other people, because there's an assumption that landlords are all rich people.
That's another foolish assumption. Yep, it's a foolish assumption. People forget or assume that they assume that there's this boatload of money there, except all of these properties have to be paid for. All of them have to be maintained. Lots of them have to have heat or lights or plowing or lawn care, and all of those have an expense, and there are employees that go with that, and there's insurance that goes with all of that, and Lots of people don't stop to think about all of the nitty-gritty that goes behind making sure there are, that
We did
there's-
it for several years. I will never do it again.
I can appreciate
So-
that comment. There are
Ever.
days that I think the same thing.
Ever.
I'm all done doing this. There are days that
Yeah.
you just wonder, is it really worth it?
I know, and yet, thank goodness that there are people who do
Sure.
it and who will rent properties. Otherwise, a lot of us would be really in trouble.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's, I mean, you know, in touching back on what you said, we do have a place for everybody. I feel
Yeah.
really firmly that there is the right place for every person.
Yes.
So we get the question a lot about subsidized income. In reality, we only have 14 of our hundreds of units that are subsidized, and those are our properties in North Troy. So we have 6 that are family and 8 that are family and 6 that are elderly, is what we have in the world of subsidized. And then after
not
that,
many.
no, it's not. And then after that, we would have what I call quite a large batch of affordable housing.
Right.
And affordable housing, to me, is hitting the person that is either on a fixed income or is somebody that's working a minimum wage, you know, or a lower wage kind of job. There is not a substantial amount of stock in that sort of mid to upper end. We are clearly, if you've driven around Newport, you see that we're building a 12-unit
Yes.
complex. And
I've watched it go up brick by brick.
it's been really fun. And 4 years
Yeah.
ago, we built a sort of coordinating 9-unit complex right behind it, which will sort of be one type of property.
Right.
There were lots of comments about this is not affordable. This was not designed to be. This was
Right.
not at all designed to be that piece of stock. This was the stock that is for the person that might be retiring, selling their home, and not wanting to be, you know, might be 75 and thinking, I'm all done with home ownership. I don't want to do it anymore.
Right.
Which is reasonable.
Absolutely.
So it's that stock, but that's the stock that we are really missing in the greater Orleans County area.
Yes, we are.
We don't have that stock. So we are working at trying to build some of that stock.
So now you'll have 20 units.
We'll have 22 units.
Do you have any others that are in that price range?
We
Category?
do. We have 4 units over on the Glen Road
Yeah.
that are very similar to what has been built.
Right.
And then there are other smaller ones here and there, but nothing quite like those 26 units.
That's still not very many for
No.
the 5,000 population we have here.
Right. And I don't anticipate having that ready until early December. And it is almost all spoken for.
Wow.
So, which speaks volumes about the need for it in our community.
Yeah, I haven't driven around the front. I should have done that actually before I came here today. Should have prowled the premises.
Well, they're putting up, there's a 9-car garage that goes with that, a 9-bay garage. And today they are paving it.
yeah.
So
So
it's coming.
that means not every unit will have a garage.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not everybody has a car, so.
Well, and there are 4 units on the lower level that are around the opposite side, and then there are 8 units on the front. And the garages are separate than the apartments.
Yeah.
So some would like it, and some don't have any need for it.
Right.
So
Yeah. What other properties do you have? I know you have the quote affordable properties that are scattered everywhere.
Sure.
Around Orleans County, actually,
Yeah.
and beyond Orleans County, right?
right, Orleans,
Yeah.
Caledonia, and Essex. I guess we're done in Essex.
Yeah.
Essex is the island pond that we no longer have.
So are you trying to get smaller or
I always think it would be
consolidate?
nice to be smaller, but there's someone else that I got to work with to convince of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for Doug, this keeps his blood flowing, and he's active in it, and he likes to know that we are doing a service to the community, making sure that all of the housing out there is fitting all of the needs out there. So, Yeah, we maybe don't always see perfectly eye to eye on how much stock we have.
Right. I can imagine.
Yeah, it's a fluid system.
Yeah. And you have business rental space too.
We do have quite a bit of business space rental. Yeah, there's a fair amount. The bulk of our commercial rental is in the Newport area.
Right.
We have a couple of other commercial rentals. We've had one in North Troy. We have a couple in the St. Johnsbury area. So there are definitely other commercial spots out there, but we do always have something going on in the commercial world as well. Yeah.
And how many houses at the for sale end of the spectrum do you have?
Not a ton in that. That's usually more of a 1 to 4 or 5 at a time. My dad loves to flip a property. I think that's really entertaining for him, to be able to take a property that somebody has really let go, and be able to turn it into something that is now in our community that really changes the corner of a street. So he does that here and there if the right thing comes along.
Where are some of those properties?
He's done a couple in Orleans, one on South Street in Orleans. We have done...
Any in Newport?
Oh, yeah. That we have done Middle Street and Clark Street, and we have done a handful of them. West Main Street has recently had one done, with probably another one coming up in the future.
There's a house right at the top of West Main that needs a little tender loving care. Have you thought of taking that one on?
I do know which one you mean.
I bet you do.
I definitely know which one you mean, but it's got to come at the right time, the right price, and all of that. He's really good at making sure that he gets what is best for all of us involved. And it's not more than we can handle right now. I would be shocked if he took one on right now, because having everybody on the 12 unit is a big project. So our guys have certainly been involved, but we have also used all of our local contractors, or many of our local contractors, which has been fantastic. They've done just a great job. It's gone up super fast. So we're careful not to... I like to say that we try to be careful about not getting our not too many things going at one time.
Right. It's sort of really interesting, because initially you just appear to be this little rental place, which obviously isn't so little, but you're a big player in the total economy of Newport, and I can't even talk about the surrounding towns. Right. But certainly in Newport, with the amount of new building, renovations, etc., etc. Right. You're a much bigger company than is first apparent.
I would agree with that. There's always a lot going on. I think that we have worked with nearly every contractor around. We're really fortunate that we have really great people around us to work with. We work hard to spread our business out, and to make sure that we're doing good in the whole community.
Before we all got locked down, I'd been in your building, your office, several times, usually about an animal, because I'm involved with a cat rescue group. And obviously I know some of your staff from other areas of life. And I was always surprised when I was in there just how busy it was. It was a constant procession of people.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
So having your doors closed now must be really strange.
Yeah. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world. There are times that...
For you, maybe.
Right. But I think we're finding that people are quite capable of not having to come in and do everything in person. It certainly is pleasurable, and there's certainly a segment of our population that I think it's very good for, to be able to get out and be social. And sometimes we are the only people, or one of the very few people, that they are social with.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah, so I do think that it causes, I do think that it has caused some loneliness, and I think all of us can relate to the loneliness a little bit. Yes. But unless you sort of know that other segment of the population, I don't think some of us quite realize what true loneliness means. And we have a segment that this has really affected
Yes, really adversely.
Yes, yeah, yes, a very adverse effect for quite a number of our tenants. They like to come in and talk with us. You know, we have very pleasant office staff, and
Yes.
and it's nice to be able to see those tenants also.
Are you able to do anything to help them right now?
There is very little right now that we can do. You know, certainly our phones are always available, and we can talk to them, but no, there is really not.
At least refer to some organizations who might be able to help? I mean, it's so challenging because nobody wants to step beyond whatever the prescribed safe space is.
Right. The best that, or the only thing really that I would say that has been done during this time is I have found a couple that were struggling, and have referred to some of our local therapists, and
Yeah.
that is it. But no, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know of a situation, or of an agency or a program out there that is doing
Right.
something.
I don't think there is.
No, I don't think that there is. That's
Yeah,
doing something
it's
to.
sad. I mean,
help
at least
that.
we're learning from this what isn't there.
Yep.
And when you talk about the projects that you guys have taken on with building, we need a community center.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard that sort of from organizations and from individuals for a long time. But we really do. We need a place where people can drop in.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree.
So when would you like to build that?
That will probably not be on our radar. It's just not what we do.
I know.
It's a tough one, but you know, I always knew of the police station as sort of, you know, the municipal building.
Nobody can go in there.
Exactly, as where that used to always happen, and that doesn't seem to happen there anymore
Yeah.
either. So I don't know.
I know.
on that
Actually, the one that disturbed me the most, clearly, I go into the municipal building for some things, but I never think of that as a place for social contact,
Right,
although I know
right.
there is downstairs.
Right.
The library is the biggest loss.
I would agree. Yeah,
People go
that
in
would
there
be
to
such
get
a great
warm or
place
to
to be
stay
able
cool.
to. Yep.
To read when they haven't even been able to get books.
Right.
So if you're stuck at home and you have absolutely nothing,
Are they not doing I mean, can't you phone stuff in and pick stuff up?
if you know what you want,
If you know what you,
and
right, which of course that's
which means you have to mind read what's on the shelf,
right,
which, of course,
which
you
is
can't do.
part of the fun of going to the
And
library is
that's right.
looking through
Exactly.
everything that's available.
And just hanging there for a while,
Right.
and people were going in there to use the computers. You
Sure.
sign up for a time slot. That's not available anymore. And the library closed with no warning, like
Mhm.
everywhere else. But
Right.
then there was no communication. So you talk about scanning stuff and sending it to people. Where do they print it if they don't
Right.
have their own printer?
Right.
It's really challenging.
Very challenging. Very challenging.
What as the biggest the biggest game in town, what would you like people to know about your organization so that when they come to you looking for accommodation, they really understand what it is you have to offer and what you can't do?
I think currently.
Yeah. Well,
They
currently
could-
and into
I was going to say
into
currently and in the
normal.
future. Currently, they can understand that we have almost nothing available,
Wow.
and that is not just us. That is the market in general. There is almost no housing available right now because people aren't moving.
Right.
I would like everyone to understand that rent has to be paid. That's really important for us right now. That communication is key if
Yeah.
there is trouble. But in the future, knowing that that's what we think we're good at, is working with somebody. Giving somebody a second chance is something that we do a lot in
Yeah.
our office. But knowing at the same time that I'm also going to hold you to what you say. I'm not gonna roll over, but I will help you. I will point you in the right direction. If you're not sure, I can't point you in the direction of lots of other places because right now it's not there. But in general, we think that we have a place for everybody. Not at all times, but we have everything from, like we said, we have everything from subsidized housing
Right.
to brand new single family homes, new construction.
Right.
So certainly we like to flip properties,
Yeah.
but at the same time, we also like to build brand new construction, and we have built a number of places down at Pine Bluffs.
Yes.
Pine Bluffs have had a numerous.
And you're still
spec
building
house.
there.
We are still building. Yep, we're still building down on Pine Bluffs, and they've just been beautiful homes. They're
Yeah.
really, it's a great property down there. So, I feel like we have everything that is out there that is possible to fit somebody's need.
So what does somebody do who is coming to Newport now and looking for housing? We've had several people recently on Newport Vermont Rocks, which is probably know a Facebook
Yeah.
group, saying, I'm moving to Newport, I work at the hospital, where can I live?
Right.
So it really is as bad as that.
It really is as bad as
Wow.
that for now, for sure. I mean, we too have a website, which is
Yeah.
memphremagogrentals.com, and certainly you can see lots of what is out there. It doesn't mean that it's always the be-all, end-all, though. I might have something that I'm just not ready to put out there.
Sure.
Because I'm not sure of a date.
Right.
So I don't want to put it out there yet. Or I might know of something that's, I think is going to come open. It's always a good idea to either call, send us a message through our website,
Yeah.
or put in an application. If you don't have an application on my desk, there is almost nothing that's going to happen. Because we get,
That's logical.
we get 3 or 4 applications at least a day. So we work really hard to print them, to run them through the court system, to check references, to do everything that needs to be done so that when I have a place, I am calling those people to say, I'm ready to go. But if you haven't gotten an application to me, it makes it very difficult to think that you think
Magical
you're going to get to jump
thinking.
in line. Right. So
Right.
I try not to do that. But at the same time, I try to find the right place for each person. So I could have a
Right.
stack of 40 applications on my desk, which there probably are right now, and I just don't have anything for somebody.
Right. Going back to something you've just said, which triggered something for me, if somebody has a horrible rental history and you run their application through all of the systems that you run it through and it comes back red flagged everywhere, but this is somebody who's worked hard at turning their life around, is there a way they can work with you?
Yep. And I have those tenants out there.
Right.
I absolutely have those tenants out there. Yes.
And that's clear to them from the get-go. That's
Yeah, I mean, I think that every application is a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I do a blanket no without doing some digging. I usually make sure that I do some digging to know, I mean, it's fair to know why
Absolutely.
you're getting a no. It's
Yeah.
fair to know why you're getting a no. But no, I work really hard to give that second chance. Does it mean if you've left somebody recently and you have damaged the property and you have a writ of possession and you have 3 evictions and you have owed $6,000, I mean, my recommendation is don't bother putting the application in because
Yeah.
you're going to get a no. But at the same time, you know, I was married 10 years ago and I split up from my significant other and I had to file bankruptcy and we had to be evicted because at the same time I lost my job.
Yeah.
But I have now been working for 9 years consistently and I come with great references. Yep, that person might have an eviction out there and maybe not great credit. But at the
Right.
same time, if I can now say it's very clear that they have made changes, then sure, I'm more than likely I'm going to work with you.
What about people who are being released from the prison system here?
Case by case basis, but I will
Okay.
tell you that over the last almost 15 years in the office, one of my all-time greatest tenants came out of the prison system. Sometimes life just does not go the way you wanted it to go.
Right.
Yep, and this was just a remarkable tenant. Went on to rented from me for years. And honestly, I felt really bad because I put him off for a very long time because it was very early on in my career there. And the way I understand the story correctly was that his son had been in an accident. He blamed himself for it.
Sure.
Got him into some trouble with drinking. Landed him in jail. as somebody new, I only saw jail.
Of course.
And just kind of put it off, and ultimately rented to the person, and just the best tenant ever. The best tenant ever. Went on to get remarried, buy a home, and is just doing so well for themselves. And now we have quite a few cases like that where I have quite a few people that have come out of the prison system that are really model citizens. So not all of them, but some of them.
But it is clear to people who come to you that they're in with a chance.
Yeah.
And that you'll be fair.
Yep.
And that's important.
Yep.
Really is. We are out of time. It goes really fast. If you had a few words for anybody who's looking for housing, what would you say? Just
cross
to
your
end
fingers right now. I mean, it would really be cross your fingers. It's tough right now.
Yeah.
But
hang in, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Once we get a new normal, then.
I know, a new normal, I think, is what we're looking for. I would like to say that I had some wonderful magic words of advice, but right now I don't. But if you don't get an application into somebody, then don't count on being called for something.
Sure.
I would say get an application in and check every week on what's changing.
Yeah. So be persistent. Fill out an application and be persistent.
Right.
Be charming.
Be kind. Understand that I can't wave a magic wand and make there be more stock.
Yeah, but still, just keep letting you know they're around.
Let me know that you're still looking. Absolutely, because it does. We don't want them to become stagnant.
Right. Thank you so much for coming in today, because I've learned a lot from this. That we all make assumptions about what an organization is or isn't. So this has been really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.